Hey, what's happening, everybody out there in the XRP community? Welcome back to Investment Perspectives. All right, so we had some really great information yesterday about the IMF giving the green light for 8 countries that they work with in the G20 to go ahead with a national cryptocurrency. So that is very exciting news to see across the globe that there is so much massive motion where everybody is definitely putting this in place. There's no longer a question on any level. If you're questioning it now, I got to tell you, you're not seeing it. So what I want to get into today is another question that we've asked quite a few times here on the channel. And before we do, let me just say, really great comments in the videos. The discussions you guys bring up and kick up, and the comments and insight is just fantastic. Keep that coming. Anything that we're talking about, guys, you can always follow me on Twitter. It's the Average Joe Investor, and the tag is @BackupBradley. It's BAKKUP, Bradley, LEY, no spaces. So you can follow me on Twitter, and everything that we talk about will be on Twitter there. So, all right, so let's get into it. So for today, what I want to talk about is the title or the theme of this video, XRP. Is it digital gold or digital oil? All right, so let's get into this. Corey Johnson and Brad Garlinghouse always use the analogy of oil and Chevron. So Ripple is Chevron, right? You know, and oil would be XRP. It's a great analogy. It's a great way to see it. Honestly, that's the way my brother and I saw it way back before Corey Johnson even started working there. And I remember when he came out and started discussing it and using that analogy, it made me feel much better about how I understood the investment at that time too. So let's just get into this a little further. Isn't oil price controlled and set? I know it fluctuates. I understand that there's a supply and demand, but nevertheless, I know that there's the powers that be, OPEC and the like, that come together a couple times a year, and they decide relatively where they're going to be with the price of oil. Stay with me. Now we're using the analogy that they gave, and they give this analogy all the time. Stay with me. All right, so now, consider the fact that we did the video, and we've made the point many times over here on this channel, that something ain't money until a whole lot of people agree that it's money or unit of value or commodity, okay? We already know that there's 200 plus financial customers still holding back that are partnered on RippleNet with Ripple. And you have to ask yourself, what are they waiting for, right? Well, we've said this a million times on this channel too. Ryan Zagone just reaffirmed the fact from a video at FinTech Conference just recently, which I believe Stephen Deep had shared with everybody, or Stuart XRP, which both of those guys on Twitter are just absolute research standouts. If you do not follow them, I highly suggest you follow them. And a big shout out and thank you to both of them for everything they do for the community. So Ryan Zagone just comes out and reaffirms the fact that it is regulation that we are waiting on. That's what he comes out and reaffirms in the FinTech Conference video. He comes out and says, without a doubt, without the regulation put in place, nothing's going to happen until that really is in place. Now, and you have to ask yourself there too, okay, let's stay with this. Let's pull back before we go any further. Let's pull back. So over a year long, maybe over a year now, it's over a year now long, manipulated bear market. We know that there has been price manipulation to allow the big players in. That has been the big speculation at why the massive price manipulation. Now, also we realize as the crypto space goes, ICOs were getting squashed, and you saw the traditional regulatory regimes start to come into this space and clean house because they know they're going to roll it into the traditional markets. And we are going to be deemed a digital asset class amongst the crypto space. And then within that, like we've talked about here, I believe we will find different classifications for certain different kinds of use cases of these digital assets. And I do believe the classification for XRP will possibly have us standing in a class all our own because it does what no other coin can do. So now, with that, let's see. You have to ask yourself, when you're thinking of the market and pulling back here and looking at the last year and the price manipulation and the reasons that we've discussed about. And we've seen the massive amounts of XRP being shuffled around to different places, although we don't know exactly who those players are. It does support the notion that big players are getting their positions, right? And at the same time, a manipulated market also highly discourages the retail weak hand, right, from becoming an investor. Now let's go on to Miguel Villas. Now we've done a whole video or two about the stuff he has said on Ripple Drop. I want to get into it and connect it today. Miguel Villas is the former head of the CME Group, which is commodities, ladies and gentlemen. Gold, oil, everything else, right? But nevertheless, this is a man who comes from that space, running and heading that space. Remember what he said in the Ripple Drop about liquidity. He said, liquidity won't come from the speculators or the retail market. And then he said, surprisingly to me, it won't even come from the market participants. He said, it will come from real businesses using XRP. Hello. I didn't say that. He said that. Miguel Villas said that. Okay? Now, that means we all know that real businesses using it will give it value. First of all, let's understand this. Companies who have decided to participate to the level of being a liquidity provider for XRP are not interested in holding, let's just say, 1 billion of XRP that are worth $1 billion, right? And let's just assume everyone's $1, right? And then tomorrow morning or the next day, it's worth half that due to the volatility in the market. That doesn't solve a liquidity problem. It just puts another problem on a different new digital asset. Liquidity also needs stability to some extent. What I'm offering in here is when you consider the 200 partnerships or 200 financial customers, God knows how many partnerships altogether at this point, even outside the financial sector, right? If you look at that and that entity and the fact that they're all being held back, right? Because Ryan Zagone said to us, as we've talked about ad nauseum here, we're waiting for legislation and regulation. I believe at this point a couple things until I see differently. With a manipulated market this long, with this much back and forth with the legislation and the regulation, I can't help but feel like at this point that, for one, XRP may get treated like oil and get a new price valuation set to it as these partnerships get the legislation and the regulation they need, and that will allow XRP to be deemed in a class all its own. They can readjust a price set on it, and that can handle the liquidity at a level of stability for the liquidity providers who intend to be the actual pool of water for all the market participants to walk up to every day and make their transactions with. That's what I believe at this point. And I believe that not only because of the things that I've highlighted here, but because you don't manipulate a market for a year just so you can cut it loose for a natural bull run. They could have got a natural bull run a long time ago if that's what they wanted. Hell, they did it last year on a lot less information and went to $3.80. That's liquidity. But that isn't where the real liquidity is going to come from, because that's what Miguel Villas told us. Guys, I'm going to wrap it right there. Do me a favor, leave some questions in the comments, and we are going to live stream tonight. So it should be just a little after 8 o'clock. Look for that notification sign to come up. If you don't subscribe, subscribe. Hit the bell. We'll let you know, and we'll see you guys tonight. All right, take care.